Just kidding.
Okay, of all the articles of faith, do you have any question? We start tonight, article 5.11 and 12, and then you can go back, whatever. Any question on today's?
When you're talking about the glorified body, you talked a lot about like how it would physically be glorified, but what about the other components, like spiritual? Or will we still be able to sin? Or will we...
Oh, we won't be able. We won't sin anymore. That glorified body, we won't sin anymore. The sin has already been taken off all of that. We won't even have the thought of sinning. We will be totally redeemed.
Pastor, what do you think there was an idea behind undermining the value of the body at one time? Like people don't believe in the resurrection of the body, or the fact that the body is not holy or not sacred. What do you think there was the idea behind it?
I don't know exactly the idea behind, but it could be a teaching that is being affected by the Gnosticism, where they will separate. Body is always evil. The spirit is always pure. So once you separate it, therefore it is always the spirit that is so pure. Why should we go back to the corruptible body, which is always evil?
The question was why would they have the idea of the body being evil? That's the question.
That is from the Greek teaching. The Gnostic teaching actually was part of the Greek teaching, the Greek philosophy. Yeah, body is evil. So the Gnostic teaching is that, right? Your spirit is pure. Your body is evil. So they have two kinds of doctrine. You'll find them in Colossians, and you will find them in Galatians or even Corinthians, right? And Ephesians as well. Okay, one teaching is that since the body is evil and your spirit is pure, so you have to suppress your body. Don't eat this, don't eat that, all right? And keep your body and then deprive them of the chance of being to sin, because it's evil, so you have to suppress it. All right? Very much like the Muslims. Muslim has been influenced by the Gnostic, so that's why they pray, they have the Ramadan. Is it good for us to practice what we call something I forgot that fasting? Is it good for Christians to fast? Oh, certainly it's good, but fast out of your own willingness. I have important things that I want to spend time to commune with God. I don't want to think about eating. I don't want to think about the good Chinese food. I don't want to think about that. I just want to concentrate on this with the Lord. And I fast. Maybe you fast for lunch or fast for dinner. Good. But if you fast because you think that the body is evil, so I want to suppress it, then you will fail. Yeah, because your attitude, your motive is totally wrong. Paul says, even Jesus says, they will fast when the time comes. Right? Probably very soon we may have to fast. When the world is in turmoil, and you find that you want to spend time to pray and to teach one another and don't think about eating, fine. But don't take fasting as a ritual. Don't take fasting as a ritual.
I think Pastor Daniel's question is, why we need to have a glorified body to go up to heaven? Can't we bring this body up? Why we need to transform? I think the question why do we
Definitely we cannot. Is it that the corruptible cannot inherit the incorruptible? You go up there. That part is really beyond me, but I'm just speculating. That's Peter's speculating. You go up there, the moment you go up into that sphere, your whole body disintegrates. Because all the aches and ailment here and there, it goes up there, it's all just like the rocket, incinerate, and your body will be disintegrated. Alright? You have to have that glory body that you are clothed, and even if when you are alive and be caught up, your body will be totally changed. No more sin, scar, sicknesses, everything. That is the glorified body. And it's no longer evil. The body, yes, because of Adam and Eve, our body on this earth is evil. Alright? And okay, there's one teaching, the suppress. The other teaching is that since this body is corrupt, alright, since this body is evil, then let it be. Let it be. Live freely. Because that's only the body. You keep your spirit pure. Keep your spirit pure. Do whatever. You can dance here and there. You can drunk every day and all kinds. So long as once your spirit is lifted up, then it's okay. Sorry, no such thing. Spirit and body. Alright? If your body is evil and you think that because you live that kind of life that you can keep your spirit pure. No way. There is no way.
But Pastor, basically, if we go before rapture, basically our body will return to dust.
Okay.
So there's no more body left, physically.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't have to be worried about the bodies, this or that. Isn't it?
Do you think that okay? Let's do a thinking of that. Let's say, okay, when Jesus comes, then Jesus will suddenly gather all the dust. Per adventure, that Pastor Peter is dead, correct? I'm buried. Then the moment you go in, you don't see anything, only a few bones, right? Mm-hmm. And then all into dust. Then suddenly when Jesus comes, the dust from Fremantle, from all the other, all gathered and form Peter, glorified body, zoom up. You mean God needs that? That's dust, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't need to. Alright, we totally reconstruct a new body. Reconstruct. People who are being eaten by sharks. Where are you going to find that dust?
Look for the shark.
that means
The shark already dead. The shark already dead. Nothing there. Where are you going to find that dust? Do you think that God needs that kind of dust to recreate us? No. We already have the new body being totally reconstructed. So the glorified body is that God has recreated, and it will be no scar whatsoever.
So cremation is okay.
Based on that, I would say that cremation is not. I won't use the word okay. Based on that, if people want to cremate, there is nothing that we can point to the Bible and say that's not. All right, those who oppose cremation and say that cremation is a judgment. Because you burn, alright? Cremation, burn is a judgment. You mean bury is not a judgment? Remember Moses incident? They rebelled against God. The what? The ground split and they all went and then killed. Are these not burial? Are these not judgment? Correct. You don't use certain things to judge. But if one person will tell me, once we are dead, it's nothing. So might as well burn and forget about it. Then I say that's not Christian teaching. Because where is your hope? Where is your hope? When we bury someone, we say that, okay, in preparation for the resurrection. Even in cremation, it is the same thing. It is always living in hope. Always living in hope. Alright? And not just on the ritual. If they want to insist, there's nothing, then I say, you better check your theology. You better check your theology. But if people say that the Lord doesn't need my this decayed body, corruptible body, so what is that? Nowadays, let me tell you, apart from cremation, there is another one is call it burial in the sea. But still, they will go through cremation, and then they will pour the ashes into the sea. They pour the ashes into the sea.
Normally, it's very, very well packed.
Yeah, in Australia, I did it once. I did it once for someone. He came to our church. The one who Tony Whitley. You still remember him? Yeah, he tuned the piano. Yeah.
Yes.
He says that I want to be cast into the sea. I want to be totally. It's for the hope. All right. He says, I'm not very particular about whether to bury or whatever. It's just this. In Singapore nowadays, they have a garden of remembrance. Is it a garden of remembrance or garden of peace, where the ashes once you collect, not the full,
Yeah, of course not.
just a few, all right, a remnant, represented, and then they just pour the ashes into the pot, a place, and they have all the very beautiful. You just go there and you just go back. No need to have the column burial. Yeah, because nowadays, especially in Perth, you have the land, you can. But do you know that Robert's father, Robert Soyong, all right, husband, he died in Malaysia, carried the urns all over here, and then buried in the urns, not the casket, the urn buried in Fremantle under a very beautiful rose plant. The Fremantle Cemetery, all right, you buy that. You don't buy a plot. You buy a rose tree, all right, and then they will bury it under, and then the rose. If that rose withered and died, they will replace. So you go there, you look at which rose, and you can pick whatever rose you like. So these sort of things that we don't go into, quibble over whether to bury and that. And if you insist that cremation is a judgment, then you are very wrong, because burial can also is also a teaching in the Bible for judgment. The earth opened and then they all fell in and closed. Dead. You call that not a judgment? Alright. So don't use a certain thing and then to important thing is that when a person, the family, if they want to bury or to cremate, is it with hope? If they think, that's the end of it, what is there to think about it? Might as well burn and all thing, or might as well bury and don't forget about it. Then that's not Christian.
Pastor, what about the other choices? They want to preserve the body.
If you want to preserve the body unless you are Mao Zedong, no one will preserve your body.
Embalmment, I don't think they allow it here.
Maybe Tesla can. He has billions and trillions of dollars in cash. But do you think that you want to preserve your body? Who's going to come and look at you? Don't preserve Pastor Peter's body. Nothing grand to look at. Nothing grand to look at. Alright?
Another question about on the same similar topic. On your section on eternal destiny, you didn't talk about a new heavens and new earth. How does that relate to heaven, and how does that relate to the glorified resurrected body?
Alright.
Because we have some ideas floating around talking about, is the glorified body what we get when we go to heaven after we die, or is that something that will wait only when the new heavens and new earth come about? How does that all fit together?
Okay, the glorified body, if we hold to the pre-millennial, the millennial kingdom, we enter into the millennial kingdom with a glorified body. With a glorified body. But then there will come a time of a new heaven and new earth, because then all the great white throne, the judgment of the great white throne, and then the new heaven and new earth will come down, and we, with our glorified body, will go up there. Will go up there. Not until then. Then, because if that is the case, then if you go into the millennial kingdom with a non-glorified body, how long are you going to live there? How long are you going to live there? Because our age is immaterial in the millennial kingdom. Alright?
So how long is that then? How long is that?
1,000 years.
Only 1,000?
Only 1,000 years, then the new heaven and new earth.
Okay.
Yeah, that 1,000 years is almost like a transition. Alright? Then they will come. Satan will be released for a while. And Satan will wage war against the saints. And God will just cast them down to the lake of fire. And then the great white throne. And then the new heaven and new earth will come down.
So to clarify that, we don't get our glorified body when we die and go to heaven. That's not our glorified body yet.
That will be in the spiritual state. In the spiritual state.
So not a body.
Not a body.
spirit.
Not a body. That's my belief. But some people will say that the moment you already get the body, but one day will still come down. One day will still come down. And the Bible wasn't clear. At that point of time, all those who are in the grave will just rise up, correct? And then those from up there will join, and we will all be caught up together in heaven. Our body will be in the twinkling of the eyes, will be transformed totally. At that point of time, I reckon that we will all have our glorified body.
Again, another follow-up question. Sorry, related. I'm talking about hell this time. So you defined hell as separation from God, right? There seems to be two errors that people can fall into with that. One error is saying that separation from God means total annihilation, right? That's one error. The other error regarding separation from God is the idea that since I'm separated from God, Satan is in control of hell. That's the opposite error, right? I guess the question is, how does hell as separation from God relate to the idea that God can still punish and pour His wrath out on people in hell? How does that relate?
Okay. We don't believe in a total annihilation. In other words, you say, you just vanish. God will not punish a person, will just totally make you become even smaller than amoeba. Alright? There's nothing left. No. It's a literal place there. Remember Lazarus and the other, and he suffered. He was just saying, oh, please go back. It is a literal place of suffering and the punishment. And this is only when after the great white throne, you know what? Satan will be thrown into a place called the lake of fire. And that, once it's being mentioned, it could be worse than the one before. And eventually they will be there for eternity, suffering. You won't vanish. Then that's easy. Never mind. I don't believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Then I don't. You enjoy your blessing. I become nothing. No. Sorry. You have to go through that eternal punishment.
Is that referring to the second death?
Yes.
And that's an idea of a clear conscience in that state.
They know that they are suffering, but don't have the idea that there are 18 levels there. Only one level. All bungalow area type. Not the housing board. Okay? Wow. A little thing, okay, on the top. 18th level. The worst one, go to the bottom level. No. Only one level. Alright? Only one level. Which is conscious. Remember? It's conscious, it's eternal. It's punishment. How is nobody has gone there and come back and tell me, oh, don't go there.
So I might have missed it before. Did you say we will be rewarded in heaven based on works? And what does that mean?
Okay, it's not salvation by works, but reward against a reward for works means that whatever God has endowed on you, are you faithful? That's the idea. Are you faithful, or are you just a barely thing? All right, it is that reward, not that I've done so many things, I've done so many years of things, then therefore I get a bigger one. No. How much God has given you? Are you faithful? That's it. That's how God rewards you.
So if you're more faithful, do you get more rewards?
If you are more faithful, I wouldn't say that there is this word called more faithful. If you are faithful to what God has given you, enough. If you are faithful, either you are faithful or you are not faithful. There is nothing that's more faithful. All right. God has given you, with all the fumble, you are still. David, did he sin? Oh, I tell you, he sinned more than you and I do. Correct? Yet God says what? It's after my own heart. It's with all the fumble, he's still clinging on to Christ. That's what God is looking for. That's God looking for. Alright? Elder Copley, we once said that. How come? If we use our human assessment, Esau is definitely better than Jacob. Don't you think? Don't you think? Jacob is really a typical schemer, correct? And then Esau just don't know what to do, and then he said, Esau have I hated. Jacob have I loved. Why? You mean God is so unfair? No, not at all. As far as, I wouldn't say it's religious, as far as God's issue is concerned, Esau has no interest whatsoever. Who cares about God? I cares about my who cares about the firstborn? My stomach is more important. I'm already so hungry. I need the red bean soup. Why are you depriving me? You can have your firstborn. The firstborn is not something that, wow, it is a big. Firstborn is one of responsibility. When you are a firstborn, you have to lead the whole family to worship God. Who cares about this? I care for my stomach. If I'm hungry, Esau is a reflection of many today. If I'm struggling, who cares about God? I'm talking about within the church, you know. I'm not talking about outsiders. Within the church, who cares? God is not blessing me. You see, God is blessing him. Why should I? Jacob, his method is definitely wrong and sinful. Alright, by scheming here and there. But his heart is always with God. Because he treasured what God. So instead of waiting for God to give it to him, God has already promised, has already told the parents. He was not patient to wait. He schemed. He had to suffer for his scheme, being schemed by others, by the uncle. Correct? So he paid for it, but his heart is always with God. That's why he wrestled and said, I won't let you go until you bless me. He is so close to God's thing. This is one of who God is looking for. Who God is looking for. Alright? God is very fair. So we thank God. We have to be like that. Not just say that, oh, I work more, I come to church more often than that person or whatever. No. God looks at you and says, hey, I have given you this. Have you been faithful? Have you been faithful? You just faithful in little, and more will be given to you. More will be given to you. Oh, that's the reward. I will quote my late principal. Not that does not mean that that is the real biblical teaching. He says that if some go up there, we just enjoy and then do it, and some go up there will have to sweep the longkang. You know what is a longkang? It's a drain. Go sweeping there. In other words, some will enjoy big, and some will have to go there do all the nitty-gritty thing. Alright. So that is the case. I really don't know. Yes, I find it very humorous. But up there, who's doing what work? And is there a word called lower rank and higher rank? I don't know. No, it's just work. I hope somebody from there will come back and tell me, hey, Pastor, this.
Different topic this time.
Okay.
Question regarding the relationship between unity among Christians and church membership, how they relate. So the question is, you're talking about issues like the millennium or mode of baptism shouldn't be a break in fellowship between Christians, right? Now, in our church constitution, it says basically that you have to be able to affirm and believe in premillennialism and infant baptism, for example, as part of the articles of faith, and in order to be a member at church. So the question is, there seems to be a differentiation there in terms of fellowship within the church at some level. So the question is, how does that, is church membership like a different concept or different level of fellowship, or is that not related? How does that work here?
Okay. In this so-called certain practices differentiation, I would urge that do not use this to cause a split or cause argument or cause a separation in the church. Everybody will have a certain conviction, correct? I know that Clifford holds an amiable position, and I am a very happy pre-trib, pre-meal position. We're not going to become enemies, because at the end, two of us will be out there, right? What is there to quarrel over? But we know that. But I wouldn't want to use my position to superimpose onto him. Clifford, you must hold to pre-meal. If you are not holding to pre-meal, you are lost. Correct? Because we don't know this, we cannot be so dogmatic about it. I say that I'm more inclined to, because things hasn't happened. But if I say that, oh, I'm saved by works, not by grace, then that's already a finished work of Christ. Then I would have to really say, what do you mean by saved by works and not by grace? But something is in the future, something that the Bible is not very clear cut. The Bible just says baptist or baptism, baptizo. And some people say the word baptizo in that time is called immersion. So the Baptist Bible, when they come to the word baptism, they put immersion. Alright? When they translate, they put the word immersion. This baptism, baptizo in those days can mean immersion. And they say Jesus was baptized in the river Jordan. What makes you so sure that it's always immersion and not using the water and pour it out? And he says it's out of the water. Alright, he says out of the water. What do you mean out of the water? You must dip in and then come out. Not necessarily. The word water there means the river. They come out of the river. Okay.
So related to that question then, so you said a few times already that it's not clear cut and different position. It's almost like preference, almost. Not putting words in your mouth, but so if that's the case, then what is the importance of having such very well defined eschatological position in the article of faith?
Right.
If it's not clear cut, if it's almost a matter of preference, biblical preference.
Yeah. When we say that it's not very clear cut, it does not mean that we don't have a position. It's almost like anything goes. It's just that we were pretty strong in our position as to pre-meal, pre-trib. Alright? But we give respect to those who hold to mid-trib, pre-meal, who holds to a-meal. Alright? While we think that we are very inclined to that, we are very clear, we give that benefit of doubt and to others and say that, yes, you hold to that. That's I can understand. If one day we can talk about it, and eventually one will come to the understanding, and then perhaps that I will be suddenly more inclined to army, or Clifford will be more inclined to that. Fine. At the end, we still do not know. There's still a good brother. A good brother. So it is not just almost like the idea of we can compromise. No, there's no compromise. is actually mutual respect with things that is not 100% clear.
I was going to continue on from the answer to our questions. Just to press in again, according to the Constitution, the Book of Gentlemen, as part of the vows we have to make before the congregation and before God, we say we have to uphold the articles of faith, right? That's part of our vows. And as part of that, it says we believe in premillennial return of Christ. So, I guess the dilemma someone like me is facing is that it seems to be that since I don't hold to a premill position, I actually have to no longer be a member of the church because I'll be actually going against the vows that I made.
Yeah, you will come to a kind of a dilemma. But when we say that you uphold the articles of faith, you uphold the articles of faith of the BP Church. Carmel. All right? That's my belief, which means to say that I know, and I'm sure that at the catechism class, the pastor, you have already exchanged, and pastor understands that you hold to the Carmel position, but you uphold the Carmel Bible-Presbyterian Constitution. I'm not going to change it. I know I hold to that conviction, and we understand one another, and we do not use that to rock the entire boat. And that's the kind of thing that we say that, okay, as you uphold it. Because this is the stand of the Carmel Bible-Presbyterian Church. At that point in time, I cannot agree to that. I hold to a different position. But that's the Carmel Bible-Presbyterian Church. I'm not going to say that, oh, that's wrong, and I'm not. I still hold to it. But I can still be a member. When it comes to this thing, I say that my position is slightly different from the church. That I don't want to rock it. But we can always discuss. We can always hold theological discussion. All right? We may not win one another over, but we can still enhance our learning and all that.
Is there a case as such for taking out the premill statement and put it in a different category from the articles of faith? Is there a case for that? If it's not an essential faith that we need to hold to become member, that rather than putting it in and then people feeling, I kind of hold an oath to uphold it, is there a case to actually have a different category in that article of faith for statement as such as this?
I think that would be difficult. In other words, to say that you are differentiating the article of faith, or this one is more important faith, this one is less important. It's all in there, but with a mutual understanding.
But didn't you just say there's more important doctrines, less important ones?
They call it cardinal doctrine and all that.
Yeah.
Because some are very clear cut. Like the work of the Lord Jesus being what? Crucified. Third day rose from the dead, 40 days then ascended to heaven. These are all very clear cut. It has to be there. But there are certain things that being taught about the future, about the mode of baptism, that the Bible does not very clear. How we wish that the Bible will be clearly telling us. But the Lord knows these are things that we can all differ and yet loving one another. These are not going to affect your walk with the Lord, your salvation. I think the Lord understands that you are to divide the article of faith in one. But it is always in what we call a mutual understanding. A mutual understanding. Just like Pastor John. He's a Baptist. Alright? But he's a very fundamental preacher. In other words, he holds to the Bible very, very clear. Then he told me, he said, Pastor, like, I have to beg to differ in the mode of baptism. Alright? Being a Baptist. That's what I am. So, as a mutual respect, he says, I won't take the catechism class. Because when it comes to the baptism, I cannot go against my conscience to preach the sprinkling type of thing. I will preach what I hold on to. But does that divide us that he cannot preach in our church? Not necessarily. And he respect that I will never rock the boat of BP Church, Carmel BP Church, in this particular topic. I keep saying, when it comes to this thing, I will refer it to the elders, to the pastor. That's all. You won't try to do what we call destabilize the church in there.
I guess,
Okay.
just to follow on this conversation, just purely from a governance viewpoint, I mean, it's great you're around. While you're still alive, you can kind of oversee issues like this. But one day you're not going to be here, and it's going to be in our constitution. Who's to say the next senior pastor, whoever, would look at it in a different way because this is part of the Articles of Faith, right? And therefore starts to say, look, you're either with us or you're not with us, and
Yeah. In fact, this thing you cannot prevent. If one day after Pastor Yo, another pastor comes in, he wants to turn the church into a charismatic, can you stop him? Either the church will split, or this pastor would have to go. I've heard of this. A Baptist church. It was flourishing when this person came. And then he turned that Baptist church into a charismatic church. Alright? Then the committee had to tell the pastor, sorry pastor, you have to go. And he left the church. So sometimes these sort of things, while we hope that with the articles, with the constitution, we can change. To be honest, the constitution can be amended with 2/3 majority. Alright? While we hold it to it, there's no clause that say that you can change whatever article of faith, even you have 100%, you cannot change the constitution or the articles of faith. No. You can amend the constitution by 2/3 majority. The whole church, not 2/3, thinks that this will have to go. There's nothing that we can do. We can only pray that, Lord, whatever the case, this church will hold on to the truth of
if we allow members to not have disagreements about secondary issues of the articles of faith, shouldn't we have it in our constitution that a member must vow before God to believe to believe the articles of faith?
No, we understand the articles of faith of Carmel BP Church. I'm a member, but I do understand that within that clause, like the second return or the return of Christ, that I hold a different view. But I still honor that article of faith. That's the BP I hold, and the pastor understands well. There will come a time when you are going to have a difficulty. You know why? The moment that you are in the church and you teach and you are serving very faithfully, when the time comes for you to consider you as an elder, you have Because as an elder, you have to uphold the entire article of faith. The only thing you say that I will serve, but I will never become an elder. Because an elder, people will come to you and ask you, no, I don't. Yeah, what's an elder? What's an elder? Alright, so you will have that difficulty in future. It's something that you want to. And when we say elder, it's also including become a minister of God. Alright, then whatever that you hold, that God has endowed upon you, then either you join a church that you hold to this, the article of faith, as you, let's say, an Carmel position. Alright? Usually it's a Reformed church and a Presbyterian, some Presbyterian churches. Or you plant another church. Alright, that's the impediment. That's the impediment that we have to put it at the forefront to say it. Julie.
Since we have it in our church constitution, how does that affect our fellowship or unity with other Presbyterian churches, for example?
It will not affect us if we are spiritually holding on to the truth, Christ, and all that. We can have wonderful fellowship. We even have good fellowship with Carmel Presbyterian Church.
Yeah. So I guess I'll extend it to them. Does that limit us from, let's say, forming a presbytery with a Presbyterian church?
Forming a presbytery. We actually, when we the session, all right, decided to join the BP circle. We already had the idea that there are two churches. Unfortunately, the BBCWA, we hold in a different doctrine. There was this covenant. We were thinking of, all right, let's join these two churches together for the purpose, not because of organization thing. It's just that to encourage one another, to hold one another accountable. So we wanted to, but unfortunately, this cannot. And you asked me about, what about the Singapore? The geographical location makes it very difficult.
Follow up with one more thing. What if, let's say, another church holds to the same views apart from premillennialism? Is that a stumbling block for us?
No, not
to form a presbytery.
Yes. But it has to be Bible-Presbyterian. We cannot form a presbytery with a Presbyterian church because the government, first and foremost, the government will not allow. Because you are not under the same denomination. We can have spiritual union. In other, we can have meeting together, and then the elder and the pastor can have exchange of views, but you cannot have a literal presbytery because it doesn't work constitutionally, and government will not allow you to have that. Because you see, you are different. You are totally different. Alright, my vision is that from Carmel, we can have 3 or 4 Carmelites. Yeah, and then we can form a presbytery, just like some of you know in BP. If you are Cantonese, one person, Anticito. So after a while, I went back. She saw me. He said, Moxie, 點解你叫你嘅 你個教會嘅名駱駝咧？Do you understand? Cantonese, please explain to them.
It sounds in Cantonese, lok po is camel. So camel. So you say it's camel. So that's why she asked,
I can't.
Without an R.
All right, we hope that we can have a few. All right, if not, then let's have spiritual union. Let's have spiritual union. Okay, with some other churches, they hold to the same doctrine. We can always talk and then encourage one another to hold joint meeting.
Okay, so like kind of coming back to what I was asking before, is there a difference between like upholding the articles of faith versus like believing the articles of faith?
Yes, there is. If you want to talk about upholding can be a little, a step further, more intense than believing. I believe. I uphold means that sometimes you can go to the extent and say, I uphold, then I press down. You know what I mean? I uphold, then I press down. So in the BP circle, because of the biblical separation, everyone believes in the biblical separation. But some uphold and say that you do not separate enough. So they press down and then we had a quarrel. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So uphold is more intense. Belief is, yes, I hold to it. But I don't want to impose it onto another person.
I made with all due respect, but I don't mean to press you, but are we really that different from Presbyterian churches? Because, previously, like you said before, we only differ on eschatology, and that seems to be, yes, we can hold a position, but we definitely need wiggle room for people.
In fact, some of the Presbyterian churches, they hold to a premium stand. Then there is almost no difference. It's just that name-wise, in the government, when we registered as Bible-Presbyterian. Even within the Presbyterian churches here in Australia, you have the Presbyterian Church in Australia. You have the Westminster Presbyterian group. They don't talk to one another. And the government see them as different. Alright? So the same thing, if we cannot have a Presbyterian with a Presbyterian church, we can have spiritual union with them, and then that's encourage one another. Let's encourage one another. When I was just before the COVID, it's after I stepped down, when Pastor Mark Chng was still around, we had a pastoral meeting. All right, how many Bible-Presbyterian pastors? Only Mark Chng and myself. So we have pastors, Westminster pastor from Matabele, and from even Bull Creek, and another one, I forgot where is it. There was another. Then we had a meeting. We encouraged one another to have a morning coffee. I don't know whether have you all ever come across. We always meet at Garden City. And there is this coffee store. We always take the corner and then we sit and we talk there, a cup of coffee. That was how I discovered it. Pastor Mark Chng. He says, espresso double what?
Short.
Double short. Yes. Espresso double short. I looked at him. I said, huh? My limit is up to cappuccino. That's all. I don't like what is espresso double shot. Oh, it's almost like drinking Parker ink. We have spiritual union. I know that you have this yearning. Pray. Maybe one day that will become fruition. Presbytery is not for as a form of saying, oh, since we have presbytery, it's almost like an organized. No, presbytery. One good thing about presbytery is that mutual accountability. If we are astray, the other pastor can bring it up and say, this you have done it wrong. Okay, fine, we can, and then we encourage one another. That's the motive, the basic of forming a presbytery.
So I guess on that point of accountability, how would we, or at least I guess in our case is the senior pastor, how could he then be accountable to, because we are independent, right? I mean,
Yes.
So what is the safeguard that we have in our case?
What did we do in the last Lord's Day? What did we do in the last Lord's Day?
Now we got elders.
We ordained 2 elders, right? Elders, that's your part of your responsibility. All right? And not only the elders, also the deacons. All right? Not only the elders. Deacons, if you find that the church is not, bring it up in love and say that, are we doing it the right thing? All right? If there is still some discrepancy or something that cannot be solved, then the advisory pastor, you can call it, have a Zoom meeting, and we will talk about it. So there's still accountability, and even then we still cannot. Then, as an advisory pastor, I have my pastors in Singapore. We can consult one another and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? So there's still a channel. Whereas you have presbytery, it's quite direct. But here you can still find ways to be mutually accountable. Mutual accountability, do not see mutual accountability as I'm checking on you and you are checking on me. No. We all work together. But sometimes our mind is strayed a little and then, oh, okay, thank you. Come back.
Could we hear a little bit about the history of the BC? Where it came from, for us.
Yes, no. I'm a young pastor, but because I was close to these pastors that I know a little. It was in the year before that, in a BP church. And initially, it was a Presbyterian church. All right. If you are a Singaporean, you know that there is this church called the Saint Martin in Prinsep Street Presbyterian Church. 3 pastors. One is Reverend Timothy Toh. He went to study in US, in Faith Seminary, and then Sheldon College for his postgraduate. And at that point of time, he came across the Bible-Presbyterian movement in US. People like Alan McRae, Led Harris, J. Oliver Boswell, and all this, and Graham Nation, all these very faithful, very biblical scholars. All right, they formed the faith seminary, they talk about this. And at that point of time, in 1948, the formation of WCC, World Council of Churches, gathering all this. And then they found that they were, that kind of union, that's what you say, is organizational, whatever. No consideration of Christ, no consideration. Everyone can join it, even the Roman Catholic can be an observer. Alright, then they say no. And we cannot sit still. We have to be able to form one, join together to have the strength, and then they form the ICCC, International Council of Christian Churches. About the same year, 1948. So, Frankel, after graduating, came back to Singapore. At that point of time, the Presbyterian Church in Singapore, they had this idea. They were still linked to the U.S. Presbyterian Church. So they believe we don't have to believe that Jesus is born of a virgin. We don't have to believe in the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ. Alright? Then Reverend Doe, and he was being said, and then there was this another eventually was Reverend Kwek Sui Hua. Reverend Kwek Sui Hua's father, Reverend Kwek Chng, and there was another Reverend C.T. Su. Three of them. They stood up to the Presbyterian, in fact the synod. How can you say that we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you don't believe in Him, don't believe in that? He said, yeah. Why should we believe? We have to be pragmatic. We have to be pragmatic. So they were fighting inside, and they found that they were fighting a losing battle. So the three of them decided, we come out to form. And they came out to form the first Bible-Presbyterian church in Singapore, the Life BP Church. And they got a piece of land in Newton, near Newton Circle. And then from there, they started. And then from there, then Reverend Kwek Chng branched out and started one in Serangoon Garden. And C.D. Su went back to US. So from there, the Bible-Presbyterian Church. And then from Serangoon, then they started the English service when Reverend Kwek Sui Hua, our former advisory pastor, came back, and then he started the English service. And then Life Church, and then started also branch out to many churches. From there it was the BP Church at that point in time really flourished and it spread very far and wide. Eventually you have about 40 churches. It's all daughter church, and all that. Alright, and we hold it to it until, unfortunately, in 1988, there was a dissolution of the synod because they cannot agree. Alright. What was the issue they cannot agree? Initially, it was Dr. Kwek and Dr. David Wong. He came to our church once. Dr. David Wong, both of them, initially they had a pastors' conference up in Carmel Island. He says, we cannot, we don't believe in the public tongue speaking, but we believe in the private tongue speaking. We believe in the private tongue speaking. Oh, that caused a big hoo-ha in the BP. But then eventually, that's none of it, because we are still still Bible college student, we cannot join it. So that the few pastors, they will gather and then they had a very heated debate. Eventually, Dr. Quack and Dr. Wong, David Wong, both of them wrote a declaration and said that we were wrong in holding that the private tongue still exists. We now been clarified after the debate. We want to declare that tongues in all form have ceased, but the damage was done, and the sinner split. They are dissolved. The sinner was dissolved and then split into individual churches. No more Presbyterian, no more Presbytery, no more sinner. It was very sad in the year 1988. All right, and every church on its own. Anyway, BB Church, like all Presbyterian churches, every church is autonomous. We only come together, all the pastors and elders, they all come together to discuss doctrinal issues. Every church owns their own property, they run their own finances. There is no, we only help one another. All right, but now it's more pronounced that we are all not individual. All right, and in fact, as I have said it was severely weakened. It was severely weakened. So that goes on until another time about the King James Version thing. There was another big split.
Okay,